Welcome to the Featured Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rick.
And today we are talking about Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere, which was a recommendation from Brad. Thank you, Brad, for the wonderful recommendation.
Appreciate it.
Before we get into that, we were honestly just talking about a bunch of nonsense, just having some fun. CJ letting me down and calling me an uncultured swine, and Goose not backing me up. If you want to catch a part of the wider conversation, go to patreon.com/featured anime podcast. $8 a month will get you access to that bonus content. And if you want to help support us through other means, you can use our affiliate link for Tokyo Treats and use coupon code featured anime, get $5 off that first box. And trust me, those treats are delicious. And if you want to help support us through other means, you can go to shop.featuredanimepodcast.com, buy yourself some swanky swag, or go to featuredanimepodcast.com for all the wonderful, relevant information. And of course, to get in contact with us, reach out to us and all that wonderful information and find out about the wonderful saucy nugs that is in the world. Now on to the meat and brotatoes. Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere takes place in a alternate future world that is Earth, where humans have basically abandoned Earth and or not Earth, I would say abandoned Earth, but more so abandoned living on Earth, more so largely, and most of them are traveling across the skies on these space-esque style pirate whatever ships with land masses on them. And you have different portions of the world where they are basically trying to dictate the rule of the world. And for this particular group, for the people that are living on this particular ship, everything is controlled by people who are 18 and under. And they said specifically that they are the last ones to have a specific society for this. The primary premise of the story is Horizon, after a specific area has been destroyed, is being made to take fall. Horizon is a person that you find out. And everyone's basically trying to get her back, and the battles and fights are leading all the way up through it, to it, and resolving around it. Now, granted, there are more wheels at play, so to speak, but that is
the way to put it.
That's just like the bare bones of it. There's a lot that kind of happens in here, and they deal with technology and magic in a new way.
Again, one way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question.
I might have
initial
an answer.
Thoughts on the animation style.
Right. So, Horizon in the Middle of Nowhere is 13 episodes long, aired from October 2011 through December 2011. Its producers for it are Bandai, Visual, Lantis, just to name a couple. Studio for it is Sunrise, and source is a light novel. And the genres are action, fantasy, sci-fi, and I will throw in ecchi on there because that is a lot of TNA. Because I just now remembered I forgot to do that. Because Why would I not remember that when I do it every single time?
I was going to say, I thought you might have skipped it, but I was like, no, he's got a plan. He's got a plan.
Yeah. You know what? When you asked me about the animation style, that's when I remembered. I was like, all right, pull up my notes again and scroll back to the top.
Oh, goodness. So again, what do you feel like? What's your initial opinion of the animation?
I mean, like,
specifically the characters.
I mean, like the animation was very shiny.
Yeah, very jiggle physicsy, if you will.
Indeed.
But, I could have sworn from the very first episode that our main character was going to be a royal POS and useless and evil and just the worst. I figured that the main character, in their droopy eyes, it's not even droopy eyes, but like, you know how some characters have a happy slant? he had the reverse slant almost consistently. And I just assumed he was going to be the bad apple, the friend turned villain that must be defeated, because you don't ever see his power until far too late.
Well, you don't even see his power. That's not even his power until the very, very end. Even though during the opening credits, you're kind of looking at it going, "Oh yeah, no, totally. This should be a thing." I mean, like he's like totally going to be OP'd. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah, he's got a bullet coming out of his back.
Right. Not the case, in case anyone's wondering.
No.
No. Honestly, I felt a lot of it was, and Brad did kind of like, allude at least me. I read the email, allude me to saying like this. The series, the setting's actually pretty dark when you think about it. And the tone is serious yet absurd. Right. So I would have to agree. I would have to agree. That's
a really good overview.
Yeah.
Short, concise, and 100%. If you take a look at it from the top down. Yeah.
Yeah. And every episode, not every episode, but a majority of the beginning portions of the episode, you kind of get like a step back for it. Like, here's everything that is going on at the exact same time to try and help set up this one thing that's going to end up happening. And so they take a good like 4 or 5, 6 episodes, six. Like 6 episodes of this thing actually happening. So, and I understand why they did it, right? I can completely understand why they did it. And when they do it and you're going kind of stepping back, understanding what's happening, understanding what's going on, it allows you to gain a different perspective, a different overview, a different focal point for what's happening or what's going to happen.
I'm not going to lie. The phrase that they kept repeating was identical for everybody. I didn't think that my life would change. I could have sworn that was going to be the subtitle for this episode. That was the day that everything changed. And I'm like, yeah. By the 5th time it happened, I was really getting tired of it.
Right.
And so when they stopped doing that after the 6th, I went, oh, okay. So there's an actual story about this. And then for me, the plot just drug ass the entire time. It just drug so slow. And I realized that there was an end goal. There was a plot point. There was a path to follow, however obscure it was at times. But it you went from point A to point B. And in most 12 episode animes, you'll find 2 or 3 subplots with an overarching main plot, Yeah. And here, no, it was just one. It was just one from like 4 different points of view. So, and you did get a fair amount of decent backstory, however obscure, in the first 6 episodes. So they did a good job at making you feel for these characters and and understanding their personalities more than anything else.
Yeah.
I want your opinion on this, because it's not. I don't feel like this is entering spoiler location, considering it's not anywhere it happens in the middle of the show. Did O-Dude try to start Armageddon because he was bored?
What? Are you talking about
the guy who blew everything up?
You're talking about the guy that died with the explosion?
The one that was first obliterated with the explosion, yes.
No, he didn't do it because he was bored. He did it because he felt like it was the right thing to do.
Wow. Conviction like that is rare.
But
at the same time, I felt like I misunderstood his driving force then, because I was thinking to myself that it was just...
That could just be me. Just to kind of iterate, that's what I got out of it, right? So if you got out of it like, oh, he did it because he was bored, then maybe he did it because he was bored. So like they never go into the exact details of it. I feel like he had an overarching plan, not a just because plan. There was an overarching plan because, he pulled.
Yeah, he did.
He pulled the Lord of the Rings Sauron type deal. It was like, there's not just 7, there's 8. It's just like, and everyone gets all upset. What do you mean? There's another one? There's not another ring, is there? What? And that's basically what it was. It was like one ring to rule them all, or rather, should I say, one person to rule them all. Deuces, and then blows up. All right, that's basically what I got out of it. All right, he's like, hey, I have an overarching plan. I have this whole dealio about what's going to happen, but I'm not going to tell you, and I'm going to set all this stuff in motion, and I'm going to blow myself up, and deuces, because the world's going to end soon unless you get it all figured out. So that's what happens. That's how I interpreted it. He just clicked
his ticket early. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, again, going back to his convictions, right? Overarching plan. It's what he felt needed to be done. And that's why he did it, right? Because if he's not there anymore, you can't go, hey, dude, you need to fix this before things go to hell.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Right. Res them?
It makes sense. I mean, like this. I mean, there might be something you can do there. Apparently, they've got gods for everything.
Look, this is not Log Horizon. There is no respawn point. It may have Horizon in the name, but...
Well, Horizon is the name of the person, which was shocking to me. Like, and they're like, oh, we got to find Horizon. And then our main protagonist's goal is to confess his love to a dead girl. And everything goes back to this date 10 years ago.
Yeah.
How the guy in charge accidentally ran over a girl, a child, and somehow it's important.
Dude, you need to understand everything's important in anime.
I beg you, give me a reason why something's important. Anything is important. A sentence, a word, a phrase, a color palette in Glass Lip.
The whole story.
Oh, let's see what you got to pull out of from the ether.
Is about.
It's okay. I realize you're choking on the vomit you're trying to spew, but go ahead, keep going.
So, Last Lip.
What you got?
It's about being happy with the life that you are given and not regretting or wishing you had another life to lead, and accepting the things that are beyond your control. Boom. Mic drop. Is that accurate? Who the hell knows? But you know what?
I was going to say.
It's the closest thing to best as we've got out of that story. I mean, like, if you think about it, right? Am I wrong in that random assumption? And like, he's not happy with his life, and then he's like, oh, this whole world changes, and then anyways, we'll get back. Irrelevant of the matter. It's a trash anime, and please, dear God, burn it off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I was gonna say the best part about it is it doesn't have itself.
Yeah, it doesn't even know what to do with it. Anyways,
yeah.
God, that was such a trash anime. Anyways, so everything's important in anime, man. Everything in there is like pivotal and to the point. With especially when you have a main look. So the main character, he had the corn protagonist eyes.
Yeah.
That is exactly what he had, and they really leaned into it too. I mean, like, everyone here is like scantily clad, and the women are bustier than thou. All right. I mean, like, plot for days on these girls, for days, for months, just
with the exception of one,
of a couple. There's a couple that were like, but a majority of them, come on, really. Anyways,
I paid attention to the story. I didn't notice. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a load of bull if I ever heard it. If you're watching this anime, and you're expecting some major plot in the sense of actual plot, you're not going to get it. However, if you're watching this for and I'm going to use air quotes for this, for the plot, then yeah, totally. This would be an anime for you. Ample plot.
You know what really surprised me about it? Like, honestly, the fight scenes were very shonen-esque.
Yes, they were. The fight scenes were actually decent. They were pretty good. Everyone had a unique power, had a unique fighting style. Everyone had a unique point to them, you know? So when you're watching it, you never had a point where the battles or the fighting style was copy and paste. Every single person had a unique fighting style. And for anyone that was basically showing you a particular fighting style or something like that, you were given the opportunity to see that uniqueness, right? It was a kind of a nice, refreshing viewpoint and take on the fighting style of the anime, simply because everyone did have a unique fighting style or viewpoint, and everyone was all unique and different in that regard. And they also made it a point to showcase each core character's, I want to say, fighting ability. So it wasn't a point to where you really had to worry about someone being, very generic with their fighting, very generic with their attacks. It was enjoyable to see that each one was unique. So you didn't have like 15 people using spears. You didn't have 15 people using the exact same sword fighting style or whatever. If you had someone using a spear, it was like a massive spear versus a tiny spear, or someone else using a sword, someone using a gun, someone using fists, someone using their erotic dancing, to name another fighting style, which was a thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that was interesting. There was money. You could pay a god but not with the cash, with hours of
an offering
work.
It would, so it's not necessarily hours of work. Like, so his deity was a deity of finance and money. So he would pay for the hours of work or hours of labor or hours of strength to help encompass whatever it is, versus someone else. They, like the deity of erotic and dance, it's paid with dancing and erotic movements and everything like that. And that's the offering. So as long as she's offering that erotic movement, she is off making that offering to the deity. If she stops, the deity no longer is there. She's no longer giving her offering, and the deity is like, that's enough. And it's like that for every single one. Every single deity is unique. Every single one has a different offering or standard for whatever it is you're looking for. And you're shown this at the very beginning. I will offer you this at this time, this at this time, this at this time to give me this. Your offering is accepted. You may use this magic or whatever, this power.
It leads you to believe there are much stronger beings in this world that don't necessarily interact. They just care about what they can get. And it's an interesting concept. I did find it quite funny that you had the Pope President, I think is what they called him. Yeah. Like you had president, you had the student council Pope President, whatever it was like every amalgamation of leader in the name that you could throw in there was in there. And for some reason at the very end, the Catholic Church was there too. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's not how things work here. Yeah. Like, okay, sure. Yeah, no, and then you also have shrine maidens that can grant power at a major cost, and very similar in my mind to Hunter x Hunter when they had Nen abilities, that the restrictions you place on the power you gain will either boost or hinder the power. For instance, one of the characters was like, I offer this thing and this thing only. And the offering was accepted, and they're like, okay, if anything but this one thing happens, you die. That was the stipulation, but in return, they got immense power.
I know what you're talking about. Yep. I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's like the caveat for it, and we're not going to specifically state what it is, simply because we kind of want you to watch it.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was a good one. However, the stipulation, like it's like you have to do this like consistently forever to the end of time, for what is what they said, right? It's like you have to always be like
duration of this. Yeah, for the duration of this power.
Yeah, right. Almost immediately slumps over and is like, oh, and then it's like really, it's like you're already contradicting yourself on that, right? And then it's like also kind of like hinted at that it's not just for the duration of him using the power with everyone else. It's like in general, you have to be like you have to fill this condition in perpetuity. And even after that, it's like you have several moments where it's just like, kind of you're going to contradict yourself right away. That's cool. I get you. Right on. I accept what you're laying down. All right. Contradict yourself. That's cool.
And who knows? Maybe there is a god of contradiction out there.
Yeah.
Laying the groundwork, being the good guy for everyone.
Yeah. I don't think that's. I doubt it. But you never know. You never know. All right.
Not in this series. Don't. And I get the feeling that these deities are passed down via the family. Like they're not randos. You can't just make up a deity and poof, there it is. I have a feeling the older the deity, the more followers this certain deity has, the more power they can grant you, kind of thing.
Sure.
And a lot of the weapons. So the whole premise about this was due to immediately after the apocalypse, the explosion, someone needed to be held accountable. And unfortunately, the person that they decided to hold accountable was Horizon, or a doll version of her. It's an android.
Yeah. To put simply, with the soul. With the
soul. And there are these 7 deadly sins. That's a very common thing out here. But the 7 deadly sins were harnessed and turned into weapons of some kind. And only a 7 deadly sin weapon can fight a 7 deadly sin weapon for the most part. And the reason I say it for the most part is there was a spear that I can't remember if that was a 7 deadly sin or not.
It was the basis for it. However, it's not that you can't. A 7 deadly sin can only fight one. It's you're going to be at a severe disadvantage to fight one if you don't have one. But you can. It is totally doable. Right? It is 100% doable. Right? And the thing is every 7 deadly sin weapon, shocking, has its own unique personality, unique trait, unique magic to go along with it. Shocking. Even more shocking. Hang on. Now, hear me out. Remember what I said at the beginning, right? There's actually 8. All right. Because you have to have one to rule them all. You have to have the foundation, the basis for the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not just the basis. So it turns out that each thing.
He specifically said the basis for all the sins. Right. It is sprung from the existence, from the loins of this one sin. It is brought to fruition. It is birthed, one might say, for this.
But I feel like they're each attached to a specific emotion: envy, lust, anger, things like that.
Obviously, I mean, 7 deadly sins are that because they're based on the 7 deadly sins. Lust being one of them.
Well, lust is the one we actually see the most happen, most used.
Right.
And what was funny for me is it didn't make sense how it worked. I'm going to use lust, and all of a sudden your weapons disintegrate. Disassemble themselves.
It's not that. It's the power. So the weapons become useless. They become limp, right? And when you're trying to punch or use your fists on something, It just, it just the inertia is just there. So it just like lightly grazes.
Any rock hard resistance you have just disappears.
Exactly. You're just met with the pure cushion. That's
you
it.
You have whiskey resistance.
You do. 100%. Unfortunately.
Oh dear Lord! I'm gonna hit you so hard. They're not.
Yeah. Basically. Yep.
Oh dear Lord, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
I mean, honestly, if the power of lust was anything, I mean, like against our protagonists and the side characters for it. Oh, I mean, like it should have had the opposite effect of what it actually did.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Yeah. Mr. Contrary, we got going on over there.
I mean, like, but you also have to kind of keep in mind, right? I guess it's like the beholder of the weapon is the one that truly, it controls what you want to have happen. So, like, the one that was in control of lust, ironically, was the Pope president, the head priest, the head of the KPA Italia, I think is what they said, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they start throwing a bunch of like important sounding abbreviations up there.
Yeah, it's not important. Anyways, so I mean, like, I guess it could make sense. It's like the Pope is like, no, thou shalt not have lust. Be limp and go and use no inertia when you're fighting. Just lightly graze one another and it'll be okay, type of thing, right? So for the Pope, I guess that's kind of how it worked out, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, like the weapon did not look like it was remotely
not even a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, I don't know. I don't have too much more I can say about this
without giving too much away.
Exactly.
Making watching it moot.
Right. It is not a bad show in the least, right?
At all.
It has a lot of comedy. It has a lot of fun in it.
It's got a lot of irony.
It does, but it has a lot of darker undertones to it too, right? Especially when they start when you're told about character X and you're like, dang, that's dark. Or when you find out more about character Y, it's like, holy smokes. So they do play a lot into the darker undertones, and it is really underplayed for it as a whole. And you're kind of teased and told about it, and it's explained to you a little bit here and there, but those darker undertones kind of like really bring it that richness. The only thing I will say, the only big glaring issue that I had that I just couldn't understand, that was just like mind boggling to me. All right.
On the edge of my seat.
Suzu, the blind character that can type on an electric keyboard, that can write perfectly.
Kanji, yeah.
Yep. Everything perfectly, right? Can write, can stop, and everything like that, but is blind.
Okay. I see no problems.
Right. That is my issue. It's like, if she is blind, right, how is she able to write perfectly? Right?
Practice. Of course. Dedication to the art.
All right. I'll take it. Why not? Done. Sold.
Who knows? Maybe she gave up her sight for perfect handwriting. The god took the sight from her.
No, she was a child when she was blind, so it wasn't that.
Maybe her parents sold her sight.
Dirty.
I'm just saying, it would track.
Dirty, but I don't think you can. I don't think that is something. While it may be something you can give up in Chainsaw Man, I don't think this quite plays the same thing. All right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you could give up other people's labor because you technically are their boss. Why can't you give up somebody's sight?
Well, you're not giving up labor. It's money. You're exchanging money for other people's labor, and they're not necessarily doing anything other than just standing there.
I mean, that makes sense. That tracks. Any hooser. I feel like this is a good spot for a rating. What about you?
Indeed, I agree. So, on a scale of up to 10, sir, how would you rate this?
I'm going to give this a solid 7. I can't give it an 8, 9, or a 10 because there's a few glaring, like, what's going on here's. And I feel like they didn't need to give me everyone's backstory about the whole, I didn't realize the world was going to change for 6 episodes. I didn't need that for 6 episodes. And I really didn't like the main character's eyes. I know that makes me sound very shallow, but I typically associate those eyes with like someone who's going to turn a villain real fast. Someone who's not a good person. Turns out this person's probably the best person available.
Just very, very sad, although
yeah,
not sad.
He had a perma-sad face.
Yeah. All right. So you said 6?
7.
7? 7.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going with the 6. For the reasons plus the things that just really didn't make sense. The plot, the whole cliche, haha, surprise, there was actually one extra ring in this set, suckers type deal that was actually going on.
Yeah.
I mean, like they introduced like a couple characters where you're like, bro, they are going to be like massive characters. They're going to be so pivotal. They're going to play a major part through the entire story.
Nope.
Not the case. In fact, some of the characters you're like introduced to, like at the very beginning, you're like, all right, cool, that's going to be interesting. And then that's it. It's like, okay, well, what was the point of that?
Took a hard left.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that. It was not a bad story. Say the least. It was decent. Could have been better though. It could have been better. So
that's understandable. That's fair.
All right. Next week we're going to be doing season 2 of this because there's another season and
we have access to it.
We do. And just I have been foretold that the main character is not really in season 2.
Really?
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense at all considering how it ended.
Right. So Brad basically says the second season he barely exists because he doesn't really need to. So if you didn't like it for anything other than him, the rest of the series definitely won't change your mind. But since you kind of had an issue with him, I feel like maybe season 2 will take a better viewpoint for you.
I'll give it a shot.
All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. Thanks for hanging out with us and joining us. If you feel like we did it too much justice, not enough justice, got stuff wrong, just plain old really, really wrong, or we got stuff right and you want to let us know, feel free to reach out to us. All our contact information is going to be available in the show notes. Feel free to, on our Spotify or wherever you listen to us, leave us a rating. It helps us out. Help us grow. Leave us comments. We would love to read from you. We do check them out, in case you're wondering, as well as all the emails. We do actually read them. Believe it or not, just throwing that out there. If you want to help support us, help us grow, you can go to patreon.com/featured anime podcast. $1 a month will help us grow and you get access to bonus content. You can also join us live at twitch.tv/featured anime podcast, 10 p.m. on Mondays, Eastern Standard Time. If you want to join us and hang out with us. Also, if you feel like, buying yourself some swanky swag, you can go to shop.featuredanimepodcast.com. And of course, all this wonderful information is available on featuredanimepodcast.com. And until next time, I'm Jack.
I'm Rick, and we'll see you next time.